I'm divorcing you. I've been tolerating you just for the money, but now that you're retired, you're not even useful as an ATM anymore. Tasa, I'm taking all the retirement money for myself to live with our daughter. Exactly. Mom has been putting up with you all this time. A man without earnings is useless. Leave the retirement money and disappear. Tasa.
Exactly, Mom has been putting up with you all this time. A man without earnings is useless. Leave the retirement money and disappear, haha.
Both my wife and daughter looked at me with disdain, as if I were something filthy.
Understood.
I quietly nodded in agreement. None of us there could have imagined what would happen next. Going back over 50 years ago, I, Thomas, was raised in a single-parent household. My father passed away in an accident when I was young, and my mother raised me all by myself. Despite working hard, my mother's earnings were modest and our home was always poor. Yet, she was kind and always thoughtful, filling me with love. Even in poverty, I felt happy. As a child, I was relatively quiet. I was good at studying, but not at sports, so I never played soccer or baseball with friends outside. My mother had a period when she was a painter and ran an art class, which influenced me to love drawing the most. I learned to paint from her and became immersed in it, drawing every day. Even without toys or picture books at home, I found joy in drawing.
I truly loved painting and wanted to study it more seriously. But I kept these feelings hidden, saying to myself, painting is just a hobby.
My mother often encouraged me to study in high school and eventually go to college, but I wanted to ease her burden. So I started working right after graduating from middle school. I got a job at a local manufacturer. Luckily, my potential was recognized, and I secured employment. Being a middle school graduate, I was the youngest there, and initially, learning the ropes was tough. However, perhaps because I was good at studying, I quickly got the hang of things and became proficient at my job. Simultaneously, as the company's performance grew, it became a famous corporation. Before I knew it, my salary had significantly increased. 10 years later, I was earning much more than my peers from middle school. Suddenly, I found myself in my late 20s, now a mid-level employee at the company. It was about time to consider marriage. My mother started asking if I had someone in my life, or when I would get married. Although I had dated a few women, I wasn't yet thinking about marriage. Then a colleague, Kevin, invited me to a group date. There were 4 women and 4 men. The men were just acquaintances, friends of friends. All 4 women were genuinely beautiful, and I was secretly thrilled. However, not being good at conversing and having limited dating experience, I couldn't initiate conversations or approach anyone in particular. Amidst this, one woman showed interest in me. That was Emily, who later became my wife.
What do you do for a living, Thomas?
Emily had fluffy long hair, fair skin, and was more cute than beautiful. Her big eyes sparkled as she smiled and spoke to me, making my heart race.
Oh, I work with Kevin at XX Company.
Wow, that's impressive. Working at such a big company.
She seemed genuinely interested in my job and kept asking more questions.
Well, when I joined, it wasn't that big, but working there since then is amazing. Is your job tough?
I guess I'm used to it, and I can leave on time some days, so I think I have quite a bit of free time.
Oh, then you can find time for hobbies or go on dates, Emily said with a chuckle.
If you have time, maybe we could have dinner together sometime, Emily suggested. It seemed like Emily had taken a liking to me. Though it was a 4-to-4 group date, it already felt like 4 pairs of 1-1. I spent the entire time talking with Emily, and before I knew it, quite some time had passed. That day, Emily and I exchanged contact information. After that, the group date came to an end. Following that, I took Emily out for dinner several times, just as we had promised. Every time, she wore cute clothes, approached me with her fluffy long hair and big eyes, smiling and talking to me, and I found myself falling more and more for her. Love is indeed blind. I was just happy that such a cute woman was spending time with me. After a while of dating, I proposed to Emily. Her answer was a yes. Things moved quickly, and we got married. A year later, our daughter Lily was born. Lily looked just like Emily. When our daughter was born, Emily quit her job to become a full-time homemaker. I agreed with Emily's desire to raise our daughter ourselves rather than sending her to daycare. I thought our happy family life would continue forever. Then, about 10 years later, I suddenly faced a layoff. The company, which had been on an upward trajectory, began to struggle and fell into poor performance after the president changed. The new president, Mr. Smith, was very much focused on educational background, and with the recent poor performance, he conducted a thorough review. People without a higher education were being fired left and right. I was one of them. This was when my life began to fall apart. The day I was laid off, I wondered how to break the news to my family as I headed home. Still, I felt determined to work hard again for my kind wife and adorable daughter.
And home. Welcome back. I made your favorite dish tonight. Mac and cheese.
My wife greeted me as warmly as usual.
Hi, Daddy, I'm hungry. Let's eat quickly. Lily greeted me with her cute smile.
Mac and cheese. Huh, that's great. Lily's hungry too, and I'm starving as well.
I never imagined that this normal day would be the end of it all. After finishing dinner, I broached the topic.
Emily, I need to talk to you about something today.
Hey, what is it?
Maybe it's better to talk after Lily has gone to bed.
Well, Lily's about to take a bath now, so it's fine. I have a drama I want to watch later, so please tell me now.
Okay, actually, I got fired from the company today.
What? You're joking, right?
At that moment, my wife's face contorted.
I'm planning to look for another job right away, but until I find one, we'll have to rely on my severance pay. I'll receive a decent amount, so we should be okay for a while.
I spoke to my wife with a feeling of apology. Then she let out a deep sigh, and she held her head in her hands. I couldn't see her expression from where I was.
I can't believe it. Laid off.
I'm sorry, it was sudden. With the change in presidency, many people are being let go.
Then my wife glared at me sharply. Her face was like that of a different person from before.
As a husband, as a father, you're a failure. Getting laid off is unacceptable. What have you been doing all this time?
I'm sorry.
I felt terribly sorry for making my wife anxious. Her attitude towards me changed dramatically.
Sorry isn't enough. Do you know why I got married with you? Working at that company, earning a good salary was the whole point. I thought I had secured a winning spot in life. Ah, what a mistake to marry someone like you. I'm disappointed. How can you not be embarrassed to be among those laid off? Ah, that's right. You only finished middle school, didn't you? Now it makes sense. It was already incredible that you managed to work at that company with just a middle school education. I had my doubts before we married, and it turns out I was right. I wonder why I didn't call it off back then.
As soon as I heard the words, "It's meaningless," I was struck with shock. I couldn't think of anything other than the fact that my wife had been seeing me in such a light all this time.
I'm tired of talking to you. Actually, I don't want to talk to you ever again. This is so upsetting.
At that moment, our daughter Lily came out of the bath.
I'm done with my bath. What's going on?
Sensing the tense atmosphere, Lily looked puzzled. Then my wife spoke up.
Daddy got fired from his job.
I was shocked to hear my wife tell our daughter this way. Lily, in turn, looked flustered, glancing back and forth between me and my wife.
What does that mean? I'm still in high school. What about my tuition? What are we going to do?
I was thrown off by my daughter's words. My wife responded to her.
For now, we have the severance pay, so we should be okay. But if he doesn't find a job soon, you might be able to go to college.
Wait a minute. This is unbelievable.
I'll take care of Lily's tuition, and I promise to find a new job soon.
Lily glared at me. Then my wife also glared at me.
You better find a job quickly. It's unacceptable if I can't go to college because of you.
Lily, there's no point in talking about it now. If your dad doesn't find a new job, we'll even struggle with everyday living. For now, we're relying on the severance pay. Lily sighed deeply. Her expression was a mirror image of my wife's.
Are you even a father? Being unemployed is just unbelievable. How could you get laid off?
My husband here got fired because he's just a middle school graduate. A man without a degree is not needed at the company, I suppose. Lily, make sure you don't marry someone foolish like him. I'm so tired of this. I don't want to be in the same place as him anymore. I'm going to bed.
Dad, you only graduated from middle school? That's so stupid. I don't want to breathe the same air as you.
Saying this, both my wife and daughter went up to their rooms. I stood there, stunned, as if I had been punched. I couldn't even begin to feel sadness or anger. Have I really done something so terrible? What were all those years with my wife and daughter about? These were the thoughts that haunted me. And from that day on, the attitudes of my wife and daughter changed completely. The next morning, the breakfast that used to be prepared was no longer there. Dinner was prepared, but my wife and daughter had already eaten by the time I got home, so I ate alone. Soon, my shirts were no longer ironed for me. Eventually, my laundry was separated from my wife and daughter's. And since they didn't want to touch my clothes, I started doing my own laundry. Then, because I wasn't earning money, I no longer received an allowance. I was told not to speak, and our conversations ceased completely. Eventually, I was even forbidden from entering the living room when my wife and daughter were there. I lost any sense of what my role or purpose was in my family. A month after being laid off, I found a new job. My previous job title proved to be beneficial, and I was able to secure employment at a company with solid terms. However, it wasn't as large a corporation as the one I had previously worked for, so my salary decreased.
Even when I reported my reemployment, upon hearing about the salary, my wife looked displeased and told our daughter he's found a new job, but it's with a lower-level company compared to before, so we can't live the way we used to. Lily, too, had a look of dissatisfaction on her face.
As my wife pointed out, our standard of living had to be lowered due to the decrease in my income. Previously, we would go on a family vacation abroad once a year and often dined out. My wife, who enjoyed shopping, frequently went out with Lily to buy clothes, shoes, and bags. Now family vacations and dining out had become things of the past. My wife and daughter would still go out for meals and shopping together, but they no longer came back with as many purchases as before. Even after I got re-employed, I was ignored by both my wife and daughter, living in the same house, but as if we were separated within the home. When Lily entered college, their treatment toward me became even harsher. Lines were drawn in the house, and I was told not to enter the territories of my wife and daughter. I had to live as inconspicuously as possible to avoid their notice. If they did notice me, they would say terrible things. For instance, "You stink, you're dirty," and those were the milder comments.
My wife berated me with, I shouldn't have married a middle school graduate. Give me back my life.
My daughter called me, the one who made Mom unhappy, trash that's no longer needed by the company.
Over time, the situation at home not only failed to improve, but actually escalated. The mental strain became unbearable, and I started to consider divorce. I consulted a lawyer, but without solid evidence, it was difficult to substantiate the claims. Furthermore, since my wife did not work part-time and did the bare minimum household chores as a homemaker, minor verbal abuse was deemed insufficient grounds for divorce. Therefore, I couldn't bring myself to initiate the divorce. After enduring for 5 years, a marriage proposal came up for my daughter. Apparently, she was approached by a man somewhere. This man was reportedly the successor to a company president, essentially a wealthy heir. I had never heard of that company. Indeed, my daughter, resembling her mother in her youth, was pretty and beautiful, so it made sense that she was approached. She proudly told me about it.
She said, unlike you, I'm marrying someone who's an elite, a graduate from a good university and earns more than 10 times what you do.
All I could respond with was, I see.
I kept thinking that maybe this would change my current life. Soon after, I reached my retirement age. I received a decent amount of retirement pay. Lily's marriage and my retirement seemed to be turning points in my current situation. On the day I retired, my wife and daughter were waiting for me at home. The first thing I was told when I arrived home was just one sentence: "We're getting a divorce." I hesitated to immediately agree, fearing that if I appeared too eager, it might be taken the wrong way, potentially leading to more hurtful remarks. As I remained silent, they kept on talking.
We're divorcing you. I've been tolerating you just for the money, but now that you're retired, you're not even useful as an ATM anymore. Haha, I'm taking all the retirement money for myself to live with our daughter.
I remained quiet. Then Lily spoke up.
That's right. Mom has been putting up with you all this time. A man without earnings is useless. Leave the retirement money and disappear.
Both my wife and daughter looked at me as if I were something filthy.
Understood.
I quietly nodded in agreement. Despite the harsh words, inside I was relieved. I had been longing to be free from this life, but I kept that to myself. I was willing to give up all the retirement money just to live separately from my wife and daughter. I had saved a small amount of money, though not much, and planned to live alone in a small apartment. I also had things I wanted to do after retirement. Sometime after the divorce, I unexpectedly received a call from my ex-wife. I debated whether to answer, but considering she called, I thought something must have happened, so I decided to pick up.
Ah, it's you. I have something I need to talk about.
Talk about. What is it? Can we start over again? I was surprised. She was asking to reconcile. As I remained silent, my ex-wife began to speak as if a floodgate had opened. Lily might be getting a divorce. You know, she was supposed to get married around the time you retired. But now, things are complicated. I was planning to move in with Lily, but that's not gonna happen now. And the retirement money is gone due to some issues. So Lily is struggling. My ex-wife had been planning to rely on Lily's would-be husband, but with the impending divorce, she had nowhere to go. She continued, "Hey, you're doing well now, right? As the former head of the family and her father, shouldn't you take care of her if she's going through a tough time after her divorce?" She spoke as if it were a matter of course. My ex-wife had heard about my current situation from Kevin, a former colleague at my previous company. I had also heard about this encounter from Kevin. He had run into my ex-wife while out to dinner with his wife. At that time, my ex-wife was boasting about how she did me a favor by divorcing me and that her daughter was about to marry a wealthy heir. Kevin heard this and inadvertently mentioned, "That's good to hear, he's doing great now," referring to me. Kevin, irritated by how happily my ex-wife talked about the divorce and demeaned me, ended up sharing my current situation with her, almost as if to show me off. In reality, I'm now highly successful as a painter. Throughout my time as a corporate employee, I secretly attended a free local art class without my wife and daughter's knowledge. During tough times, this art class was a source of solace for me. After the divorce was finalized, I had hoped to dedicate more time to painting freely. Once the divorce was settled, a painting of mine happened to catch the eye of the well-known President Johnson. Subsequently, my paintings and name began to spread on social media and quickly became a topic of conversation. My artwork started to be traded for prices ranging from several hundred to millions of dollars, earning me far more than I ever did as a corporate employee.
My ex-wife, having learned about my current success from Kevin, called me.
Ah, it's you. I have something I need to talk about. Lily's husband's company is on the brink of bankruptcy. The retirement money you gave us went all into saving his business. Their marriage isn't going well, and she's thinking about divorce. Lily and I are almost homeless, she exclaimed.
My ex-wife was raising her voice on the phone, but whatever she said, it didn't resonate with me. I have been the one enduring all this time. Ever since the layoff, I had not been treated as part of the family at home. I had effaced my existence, working tirelessly only to be met with constant verbal abuse. That hellish life had become a trauma. The thought of never having to see my wife and daughter again was even a relief. The idea of reconciliation was unimaginable.
Whatever you say, I have no intention of reconciling. I gave you all the retirement money, and you agreed to the divorce. You were the one who wanted it.
I have no desire to return to that hellish life.
That's because of your layoff. If you had been earning more, none of this would have happened, she retorted.
I won't reconcile. That's my final answer. Sorry, but I'm gonna hang up now.
She was still saying something on the other end of the phone, but I hung up. I believe the trouble with my daughter's husband's company, the disappearance of the retirement money, and their divorce are all consequences of their own actions. Having been unable to find peace even at home until now, I want to live freely from here on out. Indulging in my passion for painting and taking my time to enjoy it is now my greatest source of happiness. Additionally, I've recently become close with a woman of my age who also attends the same art class. She's been alone for a long time, having lost her husband. The paintings created by this woman are gentle and soothing to me. Spending time with her, drawing together, going for walks, having tea, and chatting brings me happiness. I want to cherish each of these moments of happiness and live out the rest of my life in this way.